Okay, yeah. Woo. What you want? All right, I can't sing, but I will sing. My name's Kristen. I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is January 10th, 2004. I celebrated 22 years of sobriety this year. I know I don't look it though, do I, right? No, I know. My home group is the 615 morning meeting in Covina, California, which is also known as the sobriety capital of the world. I know it's the sobriety capital of the world because we have a rug on the wall that says sobriety capital of the world. If you don't think your home group is the sobriety capital of the world, then you need to go find one that you can claim as the sobriety capital of the world, and that's what's really important for me. It is hot up here, you guys were right. Okay. Okay, so I was a fat roly-poly kid. I had buck teeth, a bad perm, and a belly out to here. I had no friends. Nobody wanted to play with me. I'd come home from school every day crying to my mom that I had no friends, and it broke her heart. And I remember getting very excited as a child, being invited to parties on the rare occasion that happened, even though the only reason I was invited to these parties was to be made fun of. I was the entertainment. I would be invited to sleepovers where I'd wake up the next morning and I'd have Sharpie written all over my face. And they'd stolen my bra because even at 8, I had boobs. And they thought it was hilarious. And they'd freeze it. And they would do all these things. And it was okay with me because I was getting attention. And I adopted this motto early in life that any attention is better than no attention at all. Sometimes that's still true. Progress, not perfection. And so I was just this loner of a kid, and I'd just come home crying, until one day I went into middle school. And what happened for me is that the braces came off. That perm died down to those like beachy waves that were in the 80s and 90s, and the weight went to where it was supposed to go, and I was getting the attention that I so rightfully deserved. I had friends because now I was pretty to look at, and it was amazing. I'd never felt like this before. I'd always felt like there was something missing, and I would do things to get attention to make you see me, because if you saw me, paid attention to me, then maybe I was worthy. And if you thought I was worthy, then maybe I would learn to like myself. And so I was constantly doing things to get you to like me, to pay attention to me. And I had my first boyfriend, and oh man, if you guys remember your first boyfriend/girlfriend, it was that amazing feeling, like a feeling whole, and that's all I needed was just this attention. I was constantly doing things to seek attention. I'm also a product of divorce. I know it's a very commonplace now, but in the 80s it was not. We were like the only people I knew that had divorced parents, and so I always felt like we were less than. And that is the normal state for me. I always feel less than. I've never felt better than anybody. I've always felt lower. And I've always felt like if I had to do things to make people see me. And so with all of these different feelings going on and no outlet, I had nothing else but to seek for you to pay attention to me, right? I was constantly doing that. And then I met him. He was the man I was going to marry. I'm telling you, oh my God, it was love at first sight. I was in high school. I was 14 years old. He was like this tall. It's okay. It's okay. They just made him stand on a box for prom. It was no big deal. I couldn't wear heels. I like wearing heels. I really like shoes, but it's okay. I will give up the love of the heel to be able to have this attention. And he was everything I'd ever wanted in my life, right? And I was doing things like sneaking out in the middle of the night. I was not coming home sometimes. My mom even resorted to putting like fishing line across the window to try and catch me, and it didn't work. And I was just doing all these crazy things, anything and everything to get this attention because it was filling this hole I had no idea I had in my belly, right? And I came home one day and my mom said, if you're going to live in this house, you need to live by our rules. So I packed up a trash bag and I left. I was 16 years old, and I was like, it's okay, I've already found him, right? And I took this trash bag, and I walked my happy little butt down alleyways in Covina, which is not very dangerous, but, they were alleys nonetheless. And I showed up on his doorstep, and I'm like, guess what? We're getting married, He wasn't very excited about the prospect, but he let me stay. And we lived in this one-bedroom converted garage apartment. I mean, we slept on this army-sized cot. The toilet was in the middle of the room, so was the shower, so was the hot plate, so was the refrigerator. It was all in one. And I thought that I had arrived. It wasn't the white picket fence I'd always thought it would be, but it was me and him together in happy harmony, living happily ever after, right? But I have this problem, right? And I constantly need you to pay attention to me in a manner in which I can feel. So I will constantly do things to get you to see me because there's always something missing. And we lived this happy little life until it was not happy. It was, and it got pretty bad, right? It got kind of violent. You know, there were some things going on that weren't okay. And my mom showed her untreated Al-Anon right away. And she said, "Come home, I'll take care of you. I'll buy you a car, you can go back to school, it's no big deal." And I decided at that moment that my problem was him and I needed to go home. And I would get a car, so I did. I went home, she bought me a Chrysler LeBaron convertible. It was red. It was supposed to take me to college. I enrolled. I may have gone to a couple classes, but you know, whatever. I was home and I was doing the things, and I found myself doing the same things I was doing when I was 16. I was sneaking out at night, I wasn't coming home, I was finding the parties, I was finding him, I was doing these things, and I was drinking. Oh my God, was I drinking. I found my people, they're from Baldwin Park. I know that you guys are probably not familiar with Baldwin Park, but we've got Covina, and then we've got Baldwin Park. And I found my most favorite people of all. They're so exotic. They speak a foreign language. They're Hispanic. And I fit right in. And I just latched onto them. And we were exploring all these really exotic places, like La Puente. And we were drinking and we were having all this fun. I'm still underage. I'm 18 years old. It doesn't matter. They're helping me get what I need. And then we got to go to Mexico. Oh my God, do you know how cool it is in Mexico? They speak a foreign language, it's very exotic, there's all kinds of big bugs, it doesn't matter, there's all these bars and they don't close, and they really, really like little white girls from Covina, right? So I got a lot of attention, and people were constantly giving me drinks, and they were constantly paying attention to me, and it was like euphoric. You know, it was the best feeling I'd ever had. And I was that girl coming across the border at 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning with my group of Hispanic friends who thought it was hilarious to be drunk off of her butt, screaming at the top of her lungs, "But I'm an American." And that used to be the way you can get across the border, right? They didn't need your driver's license or passport. You can't do that anymore. I would not suggest being drunk, screaming at the top of your lungs at the border crossing agents, but that's what I did, and we did that every weekend, and it was amazing, and it was so much fun. And then I got introduced to something else. I got introduced to something else that just made my alcoholism blossom. I could drink so much more. I was no longer throwing up. There was no hangover because I didn't go to sleep. And I lost a bunch of weight because I'm vain and I need to look pretty at all times. So it really helped with that. And it was on. And it was on. And then I met him. He was a man I was going to marry. So my sister and I were driving in Baldwin Park, my place, with my people, and in my convertible, and we got into this accident. Now, we got into this accident because we were channeling our higher power. We had just passed this church, and we both did this whole sign of the cross thing because we're good Catholics, laughing hysterically, and she's my road dog, right? We're doing bad things, but we passed this church. You've got to do the sign of the cross. But I must have closed my eyes in silent meditation and rear-ended somebody. And he spoke Spanish, but it wasn't exotic. It was very aggressive and it was very mean. And I was very upset, and it made me cry because I'm a crier. And then he showed up. He came up in his big white tow truck and he rescued us. Got out of the car and he told that mean man to stop being mean to me, and he paid attention to me. And oh my God, it was love at first sight. And he did things for me that I could not do for myself because I'm still underage, and the things that I really needed at this point weren't, there's no legal age to do, so it didn't matter. And it was on, and we were going to places like Las Vegas, and we were traveling, and I was learning how to cook non-edible things, and we were just having a blast, and he was showering me with love and gifts using other people's money. It was everything I'd ever wanted. And then, you know, it started to get a little dangerous and it started to get a little violent, but I like things a little spicy. I like Hispanic men, and they are super spicy. And then then I found myself pregnant, and I found myself trapped. I mean, like literally trapped. He wouldn't let me leave the house. I wasn't allowed to do anything or go anywhere unless he said so. And I'd like to tell you that when I found out I was pregnant, I was starstruck. I was so amazed. I was so happy. It was a joyous moment. I stopped doing all the things that I need to do to make myself feel whole, and that is not my story. I did not stop drinking. I did not stop doing those things that enabled me to drink more. I didn't do anything because I didn't care about what was going on in my body. I had no ability to think about anything but myself and getting what I needed. And so I'm trapped in this house, and I'm not allowed to leave, and I'm doing the things that I'm doing, and it's this void is just getting bigger because my solution is not working like it used to. And then he got arrested, and I thought, well, maybe there's my solution. But it didn't last very long. Apparently, when you go to jail and you give out some names of some people who you don't like so much, they let you out of jail. But before that happened, I went to go visit him at the sheriff's station, and I'd always wanted to do that, go visit a loved one at the jail. And it wasn't like in the movies. There wasn't like plexiglass and a phone. It was like a monitor, right? And it was like fuzzy. And I picked up the monitor, and I'm like this pregnant. And he says, baby, when I get out of here, we're going to get married. And I was just like, I wanted that moment where we like touched hands through the plexiglass, but it was a monitor, so we couldn't do that. So I was like, oh my God, yes. My dreams are coming true. It was like the proposal I dreamed about as a child, right? And I couldn't imagine what this was going to look like, but this is going to be amazing, and it's going to like be in a while, right? But he was out the next day, and I had to stick to the yes. And we got in the car and we drove to Las Vegas, like everybody normally does. And I picked out this cream color dress because I thought it was pretty obvious that I shouldn't be wearing white on my wedding day. The button's barely buttoned, but that was okay. And we chose this very nice chapel. It was called Elvis's Chapel of Love. And this female Elvis impersonator, who was rough, decided that she was going to marry us. And I remember walking down the aisle, and there's my future husband and some other randos, and I am sitting there just kind of waddling down the aisle, and I'm laughing so hysterically, like I'm blowing snot bubbles, right? This is the most hysterical thing I've ever done in my life, and I'm just walking towards my future. And I don't know how I managed to get through it, but I did, and we got married, and it was awesome. Yeah. But see, when they let him out of jail, like some of those people were not very happy with him. And so we had to find another place to live. And so we thought we'd head north, and we did. We headed north to St. George, Utah. We discovered very quickly that that was not going to be a place that we needed to live. It was a dry town. That was not going to bode well for what I needed to do to survive. And so we turned around and we headed south. And I got to tell you, by the grace of a God I thought was not paying attention to me anymore, I went into labor in Anaheim. And I had a beautiful, very healthy baby girl. And when they released me from the hospital, we continued on our drive, and we headed south to Mexico. And that's where we lived. We found a cute little house in Rosarito, and he decided he was not fit to work. I don't speak the language. It's not exotic anymore. It's kind of scary. But I'll tell you, when you go somewhere else to try and find yourself, you do find yourself and the people that you associate with. And I found exactly what I needed. Living in Mexico is different than living here. There are no social programs, right? They don't care that you're a poor little white girl from Covina or that your baby's hungry. There are no, food stamps or medical services or any of these things, right? And but I found what I needed, so that's all that mattered, right? I found what I needed. So my baby's about a month old, and I decided I'm going to take advantage of the American citizenship that I have and the free medical care that they give to people who don't have medical care. And we got in the car and we started to head north. There are some things you should know about somebody before you get married that I did not think were necessary at the time of saying I do. Those things are, asking questions like, what is your full name? How old are you? Date of birth would suffice. Where were you born? Are you allowed to leave this country? Are you allowed to come back to this country? These are things I did not know when we tried to come back and take this baby to her 1-month checkup, and we got stopped at the border. I had no idea why they held my husband, but all they told me was I could take whatever I can carry and my child, and I needed to leave, and they were keeping my car. See, he was born in a small little city in Mexico, His parents brought him over here illegally, and when he started committing felonies in the 90s, he was out on bond. Once he left the country, he was not allowed to come back. So they kept my husband. So I called my mom. She said, "Come home, I'll take care of you." It's not a problem. So I hopped into a taxi cab and I went home and my mom took care of it, right? Until they released him and deported him right back to Mexico, and I hopped on a Greyhound because I'm a ride or die kind of wife, right? I'm gonna follow my husband and that little baby, and we're gonna go back down to Mexico and we're gonna live this life next to the beach, and it's gonna be beautiful. And it was beautiful at times, and it was scary at other times, you know? And eventually we outstayed our welcome. It is possible to outstay your welcome in Mexico, and we did. And so we decided we needed to come back to the United States of America. I had to give my husband a buzz cut, give him a little Americanized. Teeth started looking a little south of the border since we lived there. And we bought some souvenirs, and I drove this car across the border. I had to leave my daughter with him. He was afraid that if I took her with me to drop the car off on the other side of the border, that I was not going to come back for him. He's probably right. So I left my daughter, he held her captive, and we illegally crossed back into the United States of America. That was a second God shot I didn't realize was actually happening to me until after I got sober and did some work, because that was in July of 2001. In September of 2001, the terrorist attacks happened and they shut down the borders, and I would have been stuck there. God was watching out for me when I didn't even know he cared. As soon as we crossed the border, I went right into that Target. I shoplifted a pregnancy test and went, "Woohoo, let's do this again." And I called my mom and she said, "Come home, I'll take care of you." And all of a sudden, my mom and my 16-year-old sister are now the mother to my children that I could not be bothered. I had 2 very healthy children by the grace of God, and I could not care less. I could not. I started jumping in and out of those windows again, running up and down the alleyways of Covina, which are not scary but are scary at night, and doing all these things. I started hanging out with the wrong people at the wrong place. I started seeking attention from the wrong people. I started doing all the things that I was doing before because that's who I am. I need you to fill my bucket, right? I need the drugs, I need the alcohol, I need the attention, I need the food. I need all of these things to make me feel whole because there's something wrong with me. And I'm constantly seeking something to fill that up. That was my solution. And I was waking up in alleyways, in Walmart shopping carts, which is actually a pretty funny story. I'll tell it a different time. But, just doing all kinds of home invasions. I was doing what I needed to do to take care of myself, and left my mom and my sister responsible for my daughters. And then one day I got arrested. It was December 29th, 2003. They pulled me over in West Covina, which is west of Covina. I told somebody that earlier. I thought it was funny. I thought it was funny. Anyways. So I got pulled over. Apparently it looks a little shady to be wearing a beanie and some sunglasses at 3 o'clock in the morning in West Covina, and the police pulled us over because I was suspicious looking. The guy who was driving my car was high as a kite, so was I. They let him go. They arrested poor little me. I don't know why. It does not make sense. They took my car, and I went to jail. I'm not jail material. I don't know if you can tell. I'm just not cut out for it. I mean, I deserve to be in jail, but I'm not jail material. And I'm sitting there and I'm wearing this like Winnie the Pooh like fleece jacket because I'm a mom. and my cute little blonde hair, and I'm in this room with 2 different kinds of women. I mean, I knew there were 2 different kinds because they had 2 different kinds of jumpsuits, so I thought it meant they did 2 different kinds of crime. I don't know what it really meant. But this side over here was talking about how they couldn't wait to get out and the things that they were going to do. They were talking about sticking needles in their eyeballs and all the fun they were going to have. Needles in the eyeballs was like a hard pass for me. That means I'm not as bad as you are. I was automatically right at that moment better than you, although I've never been better than anybody, right? This side over here was afraid to get out because they had been institutionalized and they don't know what they're going to do with themselves, right? And they don't like cross lines. And here I am in my Winnie the Pooh jacket going, oh my gosh, get me out of this, please. There were apples in the toilet. There were apples in the toilet. I can, to this day, not bob for apples. It freaks me out. I can't. It's like PTSD. I don't know. It brings me back to jail with my 6 hours in jail that I served. And I prayed that prayer. Right? When you have that moment of that brief moment of clarity, I prayed that prayer, God, please get me out of this. I promise I'll be good. I promise I'll do better. Please get me out of this. And I had no tools. I had no nothing, right? All I had was this like desperation of please help me get out of this, right? I went to court the next morning. My divorce attorney was there. He was like, I don't get paid for this. And my mom was there, and they gave me 30 days of labor. It's a little harsh, I think. I don't think I deserved 30 days of labor, but that was my sentence, 30 days of labor. My mom was in tears, and she said, get in the car, we gotta go. Your sister tried to commit suicide last night, and we gotta go to the hospital. And all of a sudden, that like feeling, that sinking feeling in your gut, like, oh my God, like I have no control over what's going on right now, and this is all super crazy, and the only thing I can think about right now is how am I gonna make this feel better, because it's feeling really, really bad, and I don't deal well with all of these feelings. I get in the car and we go to the hospital, and I walk in, and my sister, she's laying in bed, and she's got the charcoal coming down her whatever, and she's crying, and I'm crying, and my mom just doesn't know what to do. Like, she's like this good Irish Catholic lady, like she did everything right, except for, divorced my dad, which she thinks is a mortal sin, but whatever. Like, she is like this saint of a woman, right? That I didn't realize she was a saint until later on in life, but she's like this saint of a woman, and she's just in desperate tears, like what is going on with her daughters? And we look at each other, and my sister's my ride or die. Like we partied together, we had fun together, we pulled each other's hair out, we hated each other, we loved each other. She helped me raise my children when I didn't have the ability to even have a feeling for them. And here she is, she tried to end her life. And we grasped each other's hands, and we cried, and we prayed, right? Like, we can't do this anymore. Mom does not deserve daughters like us. Like, the girls don't deserve a mother and an aunt like us. Like, we're gonna do better. We promised each other in that hospital room before the charcoal god that we were going to do better and we were going to live better. But I'll tell you, I had no defense. I have an empty, rusted toolbox with not one tool in it. I had no tools against that next drink. And as soon as those automatic doors opened and I walked out, it was on, because I don't know what to do with all of this feeling in my side. Inside me, I don't. All I know how to do is fill it with the attention, the love, the boys, the drink, the this, the that, like all of those things I'm doing to make this hole. And all that's happening is this hole is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it was on. They 5150'd my sister. They made her go to a rehab facility, and I got to visit her. Really glad that they didn't make me do a drug test or an alcohol test to let me do that. I would have been, but when they let her out of this rehab facility, she was sent home with this list of like sober livings. And I was like, I am way worse than she is, right? I always have to be worse, right? It's always a comparison game. I'm always comparing myself against somebody else. I am way worse than you are. I know. Nobody asked for your opinion right now, lady. So I've got this list, and it's this sober living, this like list of sober livings in Covina. Who knew? I grew up in Covina. I went to high school in Covina. I did all of my running around except for that brief stint in Mexico in Covina. I had no idea that they had sober livings in Covina. Oh my God, what's that going to do to the property values? But yes, because I'm a snob at times. And I'm looking at this list, and I'm like, oh, I've heard of this house right here. Ugh, somebody told me there's boogers on the wall. I can't go there. Oh, I just got loaded with somebody the other night who was from this house on an overnight, so they obviously don't pay attention to the residents. I'm going down this list, and this one says it's for women and children. I'm like, yeah, no, thank you. And I finally find the one that called to me, the one that was meant for me. It was a co-ed facility, because I'm a dirtbag. It was a co-ed facility in West Covina. I called up this lady, and she sounds like she'd smoked 5 packs a day for the last 50 years. She cussed like a sailor. I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is God calling to me. This is where I'm supposed to go. And so now I set upon trying to make my mom realize that I needed help. And she says, no, it's okay. You don't need help. It's okay. I'll help you out. My mom, she needs Al-Anon. My mom needs Al-Anon real bad. I'll take care of you. No. I mean, she thought I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth. If she only knew what happened to all of those silver spoons, I think that she would have realized earlier on. But I told her, Mom, I have a problem with drugs and alcohol and I need help. See, I just watched that movie, 28 Days with Sandra Bullock. I don't know how many of you remember that movie. I know it was a while ago. But that was an inspirational movie to me. She got to go to this facility. There were hot guys. They were like kumbaya, and they got to play with horses. I mean, I thought that's what sober living and rehab was. And I was like, yes, sign me up. I need a break. My life is really hard right now. And if I can do like 30, 60, 90 days, that would be amazing. And so that's what I thought I was signing up for. And my mom wanted me to go to like a Betty Ford Center or something and pay a lot of money. And I told her I need to go to this place right here, or I'm gonna take myself to another place called Impact, which is a lockdown facility for like really bad people. And so she agreed. And so she follows me to this sober living, and I check into this sober living, and they go through my suitcase like I would really bring drugs in here. I left them in the car. And they went through all of my like cosmetics. No, they told me to pack 7 days worth of clothes, right? So I packed 7 days worth of socks and sweatpants and whatever, because it's going to be comfortable. I'm not going to leave this place. There's horses, right? It's going to be nice. And they took my Listerine. I don't know what you guys are doing with your Listerine, but that was unfair that because you guys drank Listerine that I had to lose mine, but they flushed it down the toilet. And so I thought I was settling into this like nice, comfortable rehab facility. That is not true. They made me go to Alcoholics Anonymous. They made me leave. My first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous was a Sunday morning Work the Steps or Die meeting at the 502 Club in Covina. I don't remember one thing about that meeting. The only reason I remember that that's my first meeting is one day I was curious at like 5 years of sobriety, and I went back and looked at the calendar and figured it all out and went, oh, there's my first meeting. Now I can share that from the podium. I don't know. I do not remember anything. I did not hear anything. I was not in a state to hear anything, receive anything, or be anything. I was just there. You know, they made me eat fried chicken when I got back. I thought that was a little excessive, but looked like I hadn't eaten a meal in a while, so they made me eat something. You know, they were making me do things that I'm not accustomed to doing, like, you know, showering and brushing my teeth. And the first meeting I do remember was a 5 o'clock happy hour meeting, also at the 502 Club. And there were a lot of people there, and some of them were really hot men. I'm like, oh, that's where you're hiding them. You're right, I do need AA. And so then they had this Friday night meeting. It was like the fashion show. It was a Friday night speaker meeting. All the ladies, and I use that term very loosely, all the ladies in the house were getting dressed up. They were curling their hair. They're putting their makeup on, and all I had was like sweatpants and socks. And so I had to go get my good clothes and get ready for this fashion show event, right? And that's what it was about for me. Those first couple of days of sobriety were all about what it looked like. If I can make this look good, then you're going to pay attention to me. And if you pay attention to me, then I must be worthy of your time. And if you think I have worth, then maybe somewhere along the line, I'll find that in myself, right? So it's all about what it looks like. So the hair's going to be done, the makeup's going to be done, I'm going to have my nice clothes in. I'm not going to listen to a word that's happening up there because I am not like you people, right? I'm just here for a man. It's the truth. It's the truth. And that's what it was like. I had to go to these 5 o'clock meetings. They were mandated by this sober living I went to. So in these meetings, we have the podium. They didn't use the podium for this meeting at that time, but they had this table that was right out in front. This is where the leader and the secretary sat. Over here is where everybody that was in Verna's house, that's the name of the house I went to, Verna's house, I had all sit right over here, and so she could watch us. And then on this side of the room was the vultures. They were all of the men with time, various lengths of time, and who like to crosstalk, and they like to just, and they like to stare at the girls. And one of them got up, walked across the room, and came over to me and whispered in my ear. And he said, honey, you need to stay sober so I can take you out. That was like the cheesiest pickup line I've ever heard in my life. He said something a little bit more my speed outside of the clubhouse. I think it's probably because he was trying to be spiritual in the meeting, and then outside it was, and we've been married for almost 18 years. Because that's what it is for me, right? I strongly believe in that moment God was using my number one character defect against myself, my need for validation and attention seeking. He was using that, put somebody who was working the program of Alcoholics Anonymous in my path, because that's the only way I'm going to hear anything. That's the only way I'm going to do anything, is if I have the attention that I'm constantly seeking. And it worked. I became a stalker. I followed that man around because he paid attention to me. I followed him right into my home group, the 6:15 morning meeting. That's where people go who have jobs. You know what happens when you go to the 6:15 meeting and you don't have a job? You get a job. And you start being a productive member of society because you want to keep up appearances, because that's what it's about for me. I'm not Don't even talk to me about this yet. I haven't even looked at this yet. Yes, I believe in God. I'm Catholic. Yes, fire, brimstone. Shh. Okay. All right. I'm a bad person. I've done bad things. It's all my fault. Shh. No problem. No problem. I am so sorry I hurt your feelings. Okay, I'm done, right? Like that's all it was for me initially. And I'm following this man around. I followed him right into convention work. That was his way that he served, and he did service work is he started going to the SoCal convention planning meetings. So I'm like, I'm going to be of service. And I showed up there, and I have been on that committee every year since. By the way, the SoCal convention is happening in October at the Westin Mission Hills Hotel in the desert. So if you want to know anything else about that, if you were interested in attending or joining us, talk to Bruce. He'll know more about it. By the way, Bruce, thank you for asking me to come out. I didn't say that at the beginning. I love you dearly. So I'm following this man around. I'm going to these meetings. I'm being of service. I'm going to these birthday parties. I'm doing all the fellowship, right? There are like 3 sides of our triangle, and I can fellowship. I can join in, I can go to the dances, I can play the bingo, I can have the fun, and I'm doing all this stuff, right? And I get a sponsor. And I get a sponsor who has no other sponsees, right? Because I need full, undivided attention. And she had like 25 years of sobriety, so I knew she knew what she was talking about, right? And I followed her. She took me through the steps. She held my hand. She listened to me cry. I worked the 4th step to the best of my ability at that point in my recovery with the examples I had around me. And I worked it, and I worked it, and I worked it, and I did really good, right? I did really good. And I remember the moment that I had this prayer that was foreign to me. And the prayer was, God, please help me to want to be their mom. I just want to want. Like I'm missing something from that, you know? And I would go and I'd tell the owner of this house, I just miss my kids. And she said, you didn't miss those kids when you were running around the streets of Covina doing the things you do. Why all of a sudden now? Well, because I'm starting to work some steps, right? I'm starting to find some things out about myself. But she was right. Like I need to do more work. I am of no use to these children. I'm of no use to anybody until I learn what makes me do the things I do, right? So I start doing these things. And this man, I want to like spend my overnights with him, and he tells me, no, we can hang out and we can have fun, but I do Alcoholics Anonymous. If you have an overnight, you need to go home to your children. But I couldn't go home to my children. See, I made this agreement with my mom when I checked into sober living. My parents said they'd pay for the first month. After that, it's on me. I've got to figure it out. I got to get a job. That they will take my kids and they will take care of my kids, and I cannot come back until I got sober, stayed sober, got a job, kept a job, and started living a different life. If I can't do those things, then don't even come back. We got the kids, don't you worry, right? And so I had to get a job. And I had to work some steps to start getting rid of some of this stuff, right? I had to start doing these things, but I'm so distracted by this man, but I'm following him around, I'm doing all these things, and I'm coming up on a year of sobriety, and it's like it's almost time for me to go home to these children. And I work these steps and everything feels good. I have this AA party, everything's amazing, and it's like a year and a day. I have a year and a day of sobriety. I've moved back home. I don't know how to do the simple things in life like bathe my children, and all I know how to do is sing the Serenity Prayer. I put it to like, you are my sunshine. My kids really thought it was a song for a very long time, and that's the only way I can get through giving them a bath, because I don't know how to do these things that baffle me. It's baffling how to do these normal things. I don't know how to do this. And I got that year, and it's a year and a day, and I hit my knees because it hurt so bad, and I had no idea, why does this still hurt so bad? I did what you guys told me to do. Yeah, I messed around and stuck in fellowship for a while, but I became of service. I was fellowshipping. I was working those steps. I was working 3 sides of the triangle. I had a sponsor. I had this community of people about me. But why does it hurt so bad? And what I found out is that these steps are not a one and done. Not for me. Not for me. These are a way of life. I have to continually do these things. And I had to get to work to do it again. I had to find out more because I did everything I could do. I didn't hold anything back, but there was more that needed to be revealed, right? I had to dig a little deeper. I needed to find answers to those problems and those resentments that keep popping up that I haven't been able to let go of. See, I got this like sense of a God when I got here, right? Like I had God, and then I had a sense of a God, right? And my idea of God continued to grow, and it continued to grow. And because my reliance on him continued to change, these things that I was not willing to see or I couldn't see that were hidden so deep down inside me that I had to dig deep for became apparent, and I had to do some more work. And I've had to do this every couple of years. I mean, for a while, because I'm stubborn. I don't know if you can tell. I'm stubborn. But every couple of years I've had to hit my knees. And every couple of years I had to go, oh my God, hello, what am I not doing? I'm not staying current with a sponsor. I'm not being honest with people about me. I am not looking at my character defects. I'm not doing these things. And I started doing these things. I started diving deeper, right? And I started to become a different person. I did. You know, when you get on an airplane, oh wow, I can talk. You know, when you get on an airplane and one of the instructions they give you during the safety briefing is, you know, if something happens and the mask come down and you got to like put it on yourself first before you can help anybody else. And that's what Alcoholics Anonymous became for me, is it was my mask. I had to take care of me before I could take care of those children, before I could learn how to be a member of society, before I could do any of these things. I had to learn how to take care of me, and I still couldn't look at myself in the mirror. And I remember there was one day, I'm putting my makeup on, looking at myself in the mirror, literally, just not all the way, right? And I stopped and I started to cry. Because I looked at myself and I'm like, you know what? I like you. Like, I like who you're becoming. The work I was doing was working on me. And in that moment, I knew that I could love myself. And the moment I could look myself in the mirror and know that I 100% loved myself was the moment I knew that I unconditionally not only wanted my children, but loved my children. And I became their mother. And I became a good mother. But it was hard, you know? That man proposed to me. I had 3 years of sobriety. He proposed to me. It was amazing. We had this amazing AA wedding with like 550 people. No, it wasn't that many people. It felt like that many people. And we're having this amazing thing go on, you know, and my girls are flower girls and my sister's in the wedding and everybody's there, and it's just, we're having all this fun. And shortly after it hurt again, and I didn't know why, because I had to do more work, right? And I remember going to my husband and saying, I want to have a baby. I want to have a baby. I want to know what it's like to want a baby from conception. Like I want to be sober from the moment I make that baby to the moment, you know, I want that. And that's the only way I'm going to feel like I'm a good mother. And he's like, you are a good mother. And I'm like, no, but I don't feel like it. Like, I want this chance. And we did all these things and we went to the doctors and the doctor said, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And I turned around one day and I looked at my children and I had this overwhelming sense of like love and gratitude for the life that I have today. And I realized I am a good mom. My children have gotten a version of me that I never even knew was possible. And the moment that I accepted I was a good mom and I was living this good life, I got pregnant. Acceptance is the key to all my problems today, I'm telling you, right? And we have this amazing sober baby. He's 12 years old now. I don't know he is totally of God. He really is. And I know that we feel that way about our children, right? But this kid was put in our life and he has got the most compassionate, unconditional, loving, respectful, I don't know. I think I was just a 3D printer. He looks just like his dad, looks nothing like me. I 3D printed him, popped him out, and God gave me this like amazing human being to take care of, right? Who knew? Who knew that that was possible for me, you know? These children, the two girls I had before I got sober, they were almost 2 and 3 years old when I got sober. They're 25 and 24 now, you know? And they are amazing people. I know they're my children. I am partial, but like they graduated college. I signed up for college. Like they hit age of 22 and I'm like, oh my God, neither of you got pregnant. Like they have surpassed me in every possible way. And my goal was to raise happy, healthy, and independent children. And the only way that was going to be possible for me was by working the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. To not only working them, but living them. To having a community of people about me that are like-minded and want to live a different way. By staying sober. You know, by doing all of these things, I've been able to have a life that is not without trouble. Like I owe a lot of money to the IRS this year. I think it's a little unfair, but I'm not going to drink about it, right? Like things have happened. I know, 5 minutes, gosh, okay. Okay, no, so all these things have happened. Like I forgot to put gas in my car. There's things that happen because we're human. Guess what? We make mistakes. We have to learn how to live with life on life's terms, right? But I don't have to drink, I don't have to use, and I don't have to have inappropriate relationships with inappropriate people anymore. Like those are not the things that are filling my bucket anymore. Being of service, attending Alcoholics Anonymous functions, surrounding myself with people who are like-minded, who are doing the thing, helping another alcoholic. I mean, amazing things I get to do in my life because I don't drink, and I took your suggestion. About 7 years ago, It was Thanksgiving, and my sister was over for Thanksgiving dinner at my house, and she asked me to take her to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I did. I took her over to the club. She quickly discovered that she could not be in my shadow. She needed to find her own group of people, and she couldn't be Kristen's sister. Really, she couldn't be Rob's sister-in-law. My husband thinks he's something. I don't know, he's popular or something. Everybody knows him. And she needed to go find her own group of people, and she did. And she celebrated 7 years of sobriety this year. See, our job in Alcoholics Anonymous is to be an example, right? To be an example of what the program could give and offer somebody else. Everybody in this room right here, right now is an example of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's up to you to decide when you are looking at these examples about you, if they are good examples that you want to follow and emulate and be like, or if they're bad examples that you want to try and stay away from. Because people can stay sober without working the steps. That's possible, but do you have a different way of life? Are you living a happy, healthy, independent life? Are you giving back to your community? The examples that I choose to follow today are the people who are working a program of Alcoholics Anonymous who are good people, right? If I attend a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous that is not my jam, I can't hear anything from, guess what? We are so lucky. There are hundreds of meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous all around us in every county, state. I mean, they're in all kinds of countries too, and in exotic languages like Spanish. So if you have not found a meeting that you can call your home group, go find it. Make that home group the sobriety capital of the world. Make the people that you choose to follow, that you surround yourself with, the examples of Alcoholics Anonymous that you want to be like, and turn around and give it away and be in a good example. Thank you, guys.
All right, let's thank our speaker again.